Welcome to Midcard Maniacs. I'm Jay.
And I'm John.
And today we're talking about Samoa Joe. Where the hell is he gonna go? Yeah. We love Joe. He's a super talented dude. He shouldn't have been let go, and everybody is in awe. We think that he's either going to go to AEW or Impact, as much as we want to see him do some indie stuff, do some dream matches that we wanted from New Japan. There's lots of huge potential for Joe before he even signs with anybody. But today we're fantasy booking. We're just gonna talk about how he could possibly enter Impact and AEW.
So I think the easiest one would be him coming back to Impact because he has such a long history with TNA. Regardless of how he re-debuts or enters the company, you could literally have him walk in one night, take the title off of whoever has it, and I would be okay with it because he is that badass. He deserves the title, he deserves a run, and depending on the time frame, if this whole like Kenny Omega and AEW still like crossing over to Impact, I think we have like an alliance angle where like Joe is the Impact savior. Because if there's anyone more badass, it's Samoa Joe. Like, just picture like Kenny Omega and everyone and like the Elite just like running amok and be like, ha ha ha, we're so much better than you. And then just a returning legend, a future Hall of Famer from TNA, Samoa Joe just runs him out. Like, this is Joe's house.
That makes complete sense because like, he's the most badass. I don't know what music would hit. I would hope that he could somehow get his boom, 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 or whatever. I just want to see him walk in with his towel like a fucking gangster. I wear a swag towel at conventions, basically because I love Joe so much. It just looks cool, and it helps you wipe the sweat off your forehead and your hands when you're meeting some fans, you know? But it's inevitable that this whole Rich Swann and Kenny Omega thing will turn into more crossover AEW Impact feuds. Kenny Omega versus Samoa Joe. That's what we want. And even if people start to kind of move around in AEW, Miro versus Samoa Joe. I mean, Twitter is gonna have a field day with that one. It's like, oh, well, if you wanted to watch WWE, we just watched WWE. But do it somewhere else.
And like, if he was gonna go to AEW, the only place I would love to see, he's gotta enter Team Taz. Because right now, Team Taz, I hate to say it, they're falling apart, and I love this faction.
Fucking Brian Cage, he's slipping the son of a bitch.
And that's the thing. If there's anyone, as much as I can totally see Will Hobbs being the guy to like destroy Brian Cage and like Ricky Starks just being the mouthpiece, like talking down to him, it's Samoa Joe who enters into this stable, surprise entrance. The commentator's like, oh my God, it's Joe. What's he doing here? What's gonna happen? And he just destroys Cage, and like Taz is like right behind him, like him and Hook just being like, this is our boy. Cause you could just picture how badass it would be having Taz say like, Joe is more badass than me.
And I mean, even fucking Taz used to come out with a towel on his head too. There's a lot of similarities. I mean, even his build, like they're just built similar. It's like a father-son relationship here. Sorry, Hook. Step aside. Joe versus Cage would be unreal because these are both super strong, hard-hitting dudes that can move. And that's what's really cool about Joe and what's great about Cage as well. And Cage is a better face in my opinion, and he's kind of in this heel role. When you see him promo, it just doesn't feel right, and he fucking knows it. He's just a nice guy, a horror comic book loving dude that's just in a cool faction. But he's gonna step out, obviously. The seeds have been planted. What I can see happening, I can see if Joe comes in and they start beefing, that FTW championship, I think that Cage would rip it in half like he did with the belt in Lucha Underground. And this causes even more of just a feud between whatever, maybe a potential faction or something that Cage does with a Samoa Joe situation happening over here. I just want Samoa Joe in AEW. Okay, so if he doesn't go to Team Taz, what else does he do? Like I said with the Miro thing, obviously that's something that we need to have happen at some point. I would like to see him versus Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy isn't really in that like upper card right now, even though he's definitely deserving and a future champion. He's a young guy. He's gonna be here for a long ass time. And so, while it might not be immediate, I do want to see that happen at some point.
So I would like to see him actually go and form a tag team with Eddie Kingston. I would love to see, after this whole thing is done with like Mox, that whole storyline, I think Eddie Kingston needs a partner, whether it's going for the titles, whether it's for a feud. I don't really care who the opponent is, because AEW is tag team wrestling. Can you picture Eddie Kingston walking out of the ramp and just being like, oh yeah, and my partner tonight? And then Joe's music hits and he comes out. Picture a silent Samoa Joe and Eddie Kingston as his mouthpiece.
That would be fucking unreal. And like the most badass people that you believe. Like, you believe everything that Eddie Kingston has ever said on the mic. And you look at Samoa Joe and you look at his face. This guy's a bad motherfucker, and he's walking down and he's kicking the shit out of anyone in that ring. And the way that Eddie Kingston is gonna tell you he's gonna do it is gonna be glorious. And even you put Joe on the mic. Joe's great on the mic too. The pair of them just acting completely gangster and just running through some of like the smaller talent, or at least facing them and having that, like, you know, big gangster from the streets kind of story. Joe fits in perfectly. Oh fuck, I want that bad.
They would destroy. Like, you start them off taking down SCU, because there's history there with SCU and Joe and Kingston. You do that. You have him go after like SCU. You can literally have him destroy Jurassic Express. You can have this team just run through the whole tag division. I would actually, on a side note, I think it would be pretty hilarious to see John Silver and Samoa Joe do a little standoff. Our little like muscly man just being like, yeah, I could take him on. What we just saw with the best friends and like Miro and Kip Sabian, Miro did his part, but man, if that storyline took place and it was Joe ripping apart the best friends, Orange Cassidy wouldn't survive.
Absolutely. And even with Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page now being partnered, I could definitely see Joe and Ethan Page or Scorpio Sky going toe to toe. I don't know if they'd be a great tag team as much as like it would be a manager. Joe runs it, Kingston's on the sideline. I don't really know how that works, but I'm for it, and I want that. I think I want that over the Team Taz thing, but the Team Taz thing makes the most sense just immediately.
Think of it this way. If the Inner Circle ever decides to part ways, could we just get Kingston, Santana and Ortiz, and Samoa Joe as a faction?
They're the most gangster of all. Give it to us. Tony Khan, you want to be Booker of the Year in 2021? This is what we want. What'd you guys think of our fantasy booking Samoa Joe either going to Impact or AEW? I know this heavily weighted towards AEW. Well, we got a little passionate on you. What'd you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Like this video. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Stay up to date with everything Midcard Maniacs.